this house today. Last week, we had an amazing word from Pastor Matt, and he said that hope is a feeling of trust. And I believe that that is where true joy lives. We're getting ready to hear a word from Pastor Carrie, and she's going to blow the roof off of this place. So let me ask you again, is there joy in this house tonight?
We worship the God who was. We worship the God who is. We worship the God who evermore will be. We opened the prison doors. He parted the raging sea. My God, He holds the victory. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. We'll shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. And He won't be quiet.
Sing it!
He'll shout out your praise. God who saves, we sing to the God who always makes a way. Because He hung upon that cross, then He rose up from the grave. My God, still rolling stones away. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. Shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in His place. And we won't be quiet. Shout out your praise. We were the beggars, now we're royalty. We were the prisoners, now we're running free. We are forgiven, accepted, redeemed by His grace. Let the Lord of the Lord sing praise. We were the beggars, now we're royalty. We were the prisoners, now we're running free. We are forgiven, accepted, redeemed by His grace. Let the Lord sing praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. We'll shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. And we won't be quiet. We'll shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. Shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise to you only. It's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise to you only. Come on, sing this together. All the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry. These bones will say, great are you, Lord. Come on. All the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry. These bones will sing. Sing it. Great are you, Lord. One more time. Let's sing that. And all the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry. These bones will sing. Come on, sing it out. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise to you. It's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise. Pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise to you only. Great are you, Lord. Yeah. Great are you, Lord. Come on, give him a hand clap of praise. Isn't he worthy this morning?
This is one of the first songs we sang in this building when the carpet was still green. And I can remember thinking, show us your glory. Oh, you already have. It just continues. Here as we wait, seek your face, the moment that throne upon our praise. And here in this place, have your way. The moment that we see you, we are changed. Show us your glory. Show us your glory. In wonder and surrender we fall down. Show us your glory. Show us your glory. Let every burning heart be holy ground. Holy ground. Here, not by power and not by might, but only by the cross we come alive. Here we're undone and overcome by heaven's love revealed before our eyes. Show us your glory. Show us your glory. In wonder and surrender we fall down. Show us your glory. Show us your glory. Let every burning heart be holy ground. Show us your glory. Show us Lift our eyes, lift our eyes to you, Jesus. Chains fall, fear bow here now. Jesus, you change everything. Lives healed, hope found here now. Jesus, you change everything. Chains fall, fear bow here now. Jesus, you change everything. Lives healed, hope found here now. Jesus, you change everything. You change everything. Do you believe He changes hearts? Do you believe He changes lives? The same God that changes gyms into churches. Jesus, change, fall, fear, bow, here and now. Jesus, you change everything in life. Healed, oh, it's found here now. Jesus, you change everything.
Good morning, Tribe Church. Hello. I am Cameron Hill. Welcome to the second week of Give Life. I have been faith stalking Tribe Church since 2018. Hello. Sorry, guys. I have been stalking Tribe Church since 2018 through social media, and I kept not wanting to go because it's very hard. Else in your house wants to go. So we were short on money around Christmas Eve, and I went to pay my electric bill, and I noticed that part of it had been paid, and I thought it was a mistake, of course. And the next week, I got something in the mail, and it was from Hendrix Power, and basically what it was is it was a note from Tribe Church, the church that I had been stalking for 3 years, telling me they had paid a portion of my lights during Christmas to keep the lights on. And I have been here every Sunday since. Since January 2nd, I have been here. I've joined a tribe group, and now I'm up here to give announcements. This next first Wednesday is June 1st at 7 p.m., and we have John Mobley here as a magician. He was here last year, and he will be absolutely awesome this year as well. If you are new to Tribe Church, please text 317-527-4432. And every relationship starts with exchanging numbers. We want to get to know you. We don't really have memberships here, we have relationships. I've been in a relationship with Tribe since January, and it's been amazing, and I want that for all of you. If you are not ready to take the next step, pull me aside. I'm new here too. I might not know the answer to the question, but I will be happy to guide you to someone who does. My name is Cameron, and I've never known a stranger. The next, we have our Sex Social 30. Take 30 seconds to get to know the people around you. Have a 30-second dance party. Yell good morning at the top of your lungs. Go nuts.
I got a good feeling. Yeah. I got a good feeling. I got a good feeling. Yeah, I'm up on the cloud, ain't coming back down. I got a good feeling. Yeah. Yeah, I'm up on the cloud, ain't coming back down.
Good morning, Tribe Church. All right, my name is Pastor Carrie. I am so excited to be bringing you. Hey, wait! That's a pretty nice pin you got there. Oh, this one? That's a great question. So this pen right here, I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, right there. I think we have them for everybody. What? Yeah. So. You know how sometimes you like picture something in your mind and then it like works and it's so good? All right. Well, we are, like I said, we're in the. I love this pen. Isn't it a good pen? It's such a good pen. You are going to want to remove the protective film. There's like a little, it doesn't look like it's there, but it's there. So yeah, they're so cute. They're so fun. I love them. I'm wearing one. Awesome. We have so enjoyed preparing for our Give Life services this year, and I think it's going to be just awesome. And I was actually listening to the song that we were just listening to as they were passing out the pens this week. I'm going to put the lyrics up on the screen again. People of God, rise up and shine God's love, because we are the light of the world. That song was written and sung by Michael Gungor. And if that song or that voice sounds a little bit familiar, it's because it's part of a collection that Matt and I like to call Old Gungor, from the Beautiful Things album that was released in 2010. Michael Gungor and his wife Lisa were one of my very favorite Jesus-following bands. I grew up as a Christian in the 90s, and I was subjected to things in Christian music that no one should ever be subjected to. If you grew up as a Christian in the 90s as well, you will recognize this phrase. Are you ready? It's like Britney Spears, only Christian. Yep. They sound like NSYNC, only Christian, right? And that just it never sat well with me, because Like, I didn't have the words when I was 16 to describe how I was feeling, but I do now. We serve a creative God. We serve the God who created everything. And as Jesus followers, our creations should be the most innovative, the most creative, the very best of the best. We should not be imitating the rest of the world. The rest of the world should be imitating us because our musicians, our artists, our movie producers should be setting the standard for everything else because they are just that good. So when I came across Gungor back in like 2010, I was like, yes, these people get it. They are so talented. They are so innovative. They are so creative. And they actually, these are two of my albums. I just had these on repeat, I think, for like 6 years. We got to see them in concert a couple of times, and I'm telling you, their concerts like elevated my faith. They challenged me. They made my faith stronger. They taught me to worship and connect with God on a deeper level, and they showed me how to do things in the name of God with excellence. I love this band. And then 5 or 6 years ago, the unthinkable happened. Michael Gungor lost his faith. He became an atheist. And if you know music, if you know their music, you know what a tragedy this was for their family. And if you know the music industry, you know, or I'm sorry, when they left, it was a tragedy for us because their music wasn't happening anymore. But if you know the music industry, you know that it was devastating for their family too because their family's livelihood was based on albums purchased and concert ticket sales and merchandise. And I had a lot of Gungor merchandise. They had concerts that were canceled, their albums stopped selling, their social media went dark, and that was the end of the coolest Jesus-following band that I've ever known. But God. Sometime during the global pandemic, when the world got quiet, the Gungors found God again. They spent time reconnecting, writing, learning, and growing closer to Him again. And then when they were ready, they posted a video on their Instagram, and it came across my feed earlier this year, and I was so excited because they said that they were going to start producing music again, and they were going to start performing again. But Matt Dilley, he watched the whole video. I didn't watch the whole video. I just got really excited and was like running around screaming. And he watched all the way to the part where Michael Gungor himself says that he's going to start touring again. But he wants his tours to look different than they did. He doesn't want to go play big venues anymore. He wants them to be smaller and more intimate. And all you had to do was reach out to him. So Matt Dilley reached out to him, and he was like, hey, Michael Gungor, I'm the pastor of this really cool church in downtown Plainfield. Do you want to come do a show here? And I can't believe I just said, Michael Gungor is coming to Tribe Church. He's coming on August 3rd, and it's free. I mean, it's free to you. It's not free. It's not free. It's free to you. It's free to you. We are not going to charge. So when we started planning this series about radical, life-changing, life-giving generosity, we just held open hands, and we had no idea what God was going to put in those hands. And that's usually how it goes for Tribe. So I couldn't believe it when all of this was happening a couple of weeks ago. So if you know who the band Gungor is, like, oh my gosh, you guys, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this is happening. Oh my gosh, I told my dad, I was like, Dad, what if, you could have, a private concert with, Bread or Seals and Croft or, one of those bands from the 70s that you really like. This is what this is like for me. And he's like, okay, that's pretty cool. Because when I first told him, he was like, all right. And if you don't know who Gungor is, you have about 2 months to get to know their music. Their music has been life-giving to me since the first time I heard it. And so I hope over the next 2 months you will check it out. And let's throw those lyrics back up on the screen one more time. People of God, rise up. Rise up and shine God's love, because we are the light of the world. That's the heartbeat of this series, guys. We are the light of the world. Jesus was actually the one who said this. Matthew recorded it. It's at the very beginning of Matthew's gospel. He says, "You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and then put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." And as I was reading that verse this week, I couldn't help but notice that, doesn't that kind of sound like a quick reminder on Jesus' way out the door? Like he's about to ascend into heaven, and he's like, "Hey guys, real quick, right before I leave, just remember, you're the light of the world. Like, no one lights a candle and sticks it under a bush or a barrel or a bowl or whatever. If you put it on its stand, it's going to bring light to the whole house. You're the light of the world. When you shine the light of the world, you're actually shining the light back on me. When you do that, doesn't that sound like something that you would put at the end of a sermon, at the end of your life here on earth? But if you were here the last time I preached, you're probably inside your head right now going, context, Pastor Carrie, because we're looking at this, and that says Matthew 5. That's at the beginning of Matthew's gospel. That's not at the end. We need some context here. And so, here's your context. A great place to start with context is just to read the whole chapter that a verse is found in. And so, Matthew chapter 5 starts with the Beatitudes. That's those blessed are theirs. Remember those? And it's also the introduction to the Sermon on the Mount. The Sermon on the Mount actually goes on for several chapters of Matthew's gospel. And Jesus, through the Sermon on the Mount, is basically vision casting what he wants the world to look like, or what the world can look like if we put his teachings into practice. So again, it starts off with the Beatitudes. Those are kind of like the hook. Those are the ones that get you listening, like passing out pens at the beginning of the service. And then he goes right into it. Jesus goes right into it. He says, "You are the salt of the earth. But if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made more salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot." We read these words, and Jesus is challenging his first century listeners, and I think he's challenging us today too. He's challenging the people listening to these words to remember that you are set apart. Stop acting like everybody else in the world, because you are set apart. The people who were listening to him that day were Jewish people. They were God's chosen people, and they knew it. But they were acting like the rest of the world, getting caught up in politics, getting involved in petty squabbles, getting distracted by things that don't matter, like who had the best camel, whose tunic was the coolest, who had this season's best sandals, who had that trendy new water jug. They were holding back and hoarding their resources. And he's right at the beginning of one of his most important sermons that he's ever going to preach. And instead of easing his foot off the gas, Jesus doubles down, and this is where we see that verse. You are the light of the world. City on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people put the candle, you don't put a candle under a bowl. You put it in the middle of a room so that it lights everything up. Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Because you are the light of the world. You are the light of the world. You're the light of the world. You're the light of the world, of the whole world. And your job as a Jesus follower is to shine his light into dark places in your world. Not to bumble around in the darkness as part of the darkness, acting like everybody else, but to be light bearers. To connect the world around you with the good news of God's love. Because you're the light of the world. Pastor Matt said last week that the local church is the hope of the world. And I absolutely believe that's true. I left my first career because I believe that's true. I was a teacher for 15 years. And the farther we got into church planting, the farther we got into ministry, the more that I learned, the more that I worked with people as a part of Tribe. I looked around my classroom and I saw kids who were broken and hurting. And then I would lock eyes with parents who were broken and hurting, whose kids were broken and hurting, and they didn't know what to do. And my heart inside my chest was screaming, I know what to do. I know the answer. I know how to help this situation. And it isn't more math facts, and it isn't more tutoring, and it isn't more books. It's fixing the family. It's getting mom and dad to a place of health, mentally, physically, and spiritually. It's coming to church each week as a family. It's attending your tribe group with your family. It's learning and growing in a relationship with Jesus together. And my heart was crying out, God, I know what these people need, and I have handcuffs on because I can't give it to them. Couldn't do anything in that context except for math facts and tutoring and reading. And so I walked away. And I walked away from a full-time career to pursue full-time ministry on a part-time salary. And Matt said last week that we are proudly bivocational. We both work other jobs in order to take the pressure off this young church to financially support our family. We used to hang our heads in shame about this. But now, almost 4 years into this thing, we shout it from the rooftops. Because we're the light of the world, and whatever it takes to make Jesus more known in the town of Plainfield is what we're going to do, because we are all in here. We are all in. And you are the light of the world. Again, this sounds like a reminder at the end of his ministry, but it's actually from the beginning of his ministry. He calls the disciples in chapter 4 of Matthew, and by the time we get to chapter 5, we're already at the Sermon on the Mount. It's quick. This is like the first thing they do as a group is this Sermon on the Mount. It's the beginning of something. And I think that's good news for you this morning, especially if you're new here, especially if you've never served before, especially if you've never given through a church before, if you've never used your time, your talent, and your money to glorify your Father in heaven. Today is a great day to get started. It's okay if this is all new to you. It's okay if you are just starting out. Because whether you've been doing this for 2 minutes or 2 decades, you are the light of the world. Jesus lays it all out there right from the start. You are the light of the world, and the good that you push out into the world with your time and your talents and your money is a reflection of God, and it glorifies your Father in heaven. So like I said earlier, we are in week 2. We are in the final week of our Give Life series. And if you missed last week, I am so sorry, because it was amazing. Like Pastor Matt preached the paint right off the walls. I spent all week repainting this place, guys. We did something that we called a reverse offering last week, and the idea was to take some of the money that we gave you. What we did was we took an entire week. We took all of last year's offerings, divided it by, 52? Sure. We divided it by 52. That was an average giving a week. We went to the bank, we pulled it out in cash, we put it in envelopes, and we handed them out. And the idea was that you would take some or all of that money and use it to to do something good in your world. Some people paid for other people's meals. Some people brought donuts into the office. Some people gave it to people that they encounter in their lives on a regular basis. And some of the kiddos, because we gave it to kids too, gave it to their teachers or to people who work in their schools. Like, it wasn't a ton of money that we gave each one of you, but it was definitely enough to make someone's day. Bailey gave hers yesterday to the lady at Big B, partly because she's a generous child, and partly because I was the worst drive-through order that girl's probably had her entire life. Like, it was bad. It was bad. And she's like, I'm going to give her this. And her little face just lit up. It was so cool. We gave ours to the people behind us in line. We paid for their meal, and they paid for the people behind them. It's just so cool. I just love it. And again, we've called this series Give Life for a couple of reasons. One was because we wanted to have it echo our Give Light campaign that we do in December. Cameron talked about our Give Light campaign and how it affected her life this morning. Didn't she do amazing, you guys? That was her first time. She's only, it's going to be so good. It's only going to get better from here. So good. And the other thing we wanted to focus on this series was not just giving money away. It is about that for sure. Because every dollar that is given through our Give Life drop down on the website or marked in an envelope in our giving station over here is going to Family Promise. Family Promise purchased a home that will be used to house several families. And they're giving us the opportunity to furnish one of their living spaces. Our goal was to raise at least $5,000. And guys, as of this morning, we were already there and we hadn't even collected an offering today. I know, yes, absolutely. And so if you weren't here last week, we are asking every person at Tribe to donate $39.95 to our Give Life fund, okay? And some of you are like, $40 a person? Is that all? Like, are you kidding me? That is so little money for our family. I can do that in my sleep. And if that's you, maybe give a little bit more. And then on the other side of it, there are some of you who are like, $40 a person? That is so much money. Like, we can't do that right now. Like, are you kidding me? Listen to me, I get it. There have been plenty of times in our lives where we couldn't have come up with an extra $160 because there's 4 people in our family, 40 times 4, 160. But I encourage you to give something, even if it's just $1. We have always said that we don't want something from you, we want something for you. And what we want for you for this Give Light campaign is to be able to say, I did that. When you see us post about it on social media, I want you to think to yourself, I did that. When we talk about it in the future, because we're still talking about Give Life from last year, we're not going to shut up about this. What you guys do in this community, we are never going to stop talking about. And I want you to be able to say, I did that. I was a part of that. When you hear someone in the community talk about this or mention this, and that happens to our people all the time, because people are picking up on the fact that Tribe Church is here for the town of Plainfield. I want you to be able to hold your head high and think, that was me. I did that. I gave through that, and God blessed the heck out of it. Because even if it's only $1, that was you. Being the light of the world, that was you being the light of the world, bringing the light into dark places. The families that are at Family Promise are usually homeless, and they've been living in hotels. And they're going to be able to be in a house for a period of time while they get back on their feet, because that's what Family Promise does. They don't let people sit in their muck, because it's okay to not be okay, but it is not okay to stay that way. And that is the heart behind Family Promise. And again, we called this series Give Light to echo Give, or Give Life, to echo Give Light, and to focus on radical, life-giving generosity through giving. Not just our time, and not just our talents, and not just our money, but our stuff. And again, this is not because we want your stuff, because we don't want something from you. We want something for you. But there are some real benefits to life-giving, radical generosity. There are some very real physical and emotional things that happen when you give. There have been study after study done on generosity. Believe me, I read all of them this week as I was preparing this message. And I learned that when you give, your brain releases a ton of dopamine. These are the hormones that are released when something good or pleasurable happens. Some things that release a low level of dopamine are things like petting a dog, yawning, a hot shower releases a low level of dopamine in your body. Things that release a high level of dopamine, falling in love, winning a bet, getting an unexpected gift. We left some unexpected gifts around the room. See if they're under your chairs. What? More stuff? Oh my gosh, you guys. I think the people in the front row might need some. Xander, can you get some for the girls in the front row? Introduce yourself, by the way, Xander. The future is so bright at Tribe Church, we got to wear shades, guys. It's It's so bright. It's so bright. They're not hearts. I looked for hearts. They're not hearts. Maybe next year. I know. Here's what's fascinating about giving. It doesn't matter how much you have. It doesn't matter how much you give. And it doesn't matter what you give. When you give to someone, when you give to an actual human person, when you have that interaction, on a scale from 1 to 10, with 1 being low and 10 being high, your brain releases like a 7 or 8 of dopamine. That's probably more than when you got your awesome new sunglasses. But not more than I got when I saw you guys getting them. So fun. That means that practicing generosity regularly can result in lower levels of depression, a lower blood pressure, more empathy, an overall longer lifespan. You can actually live longer if you give more. It connects us to our family and to our friends and to our community. And if you are a Jesus follower, it connects you to your Father in heaven. So why don't we do this more? Why did Matt and I get 1,094 calls this week from all these other churches that were like, how did you do this? How did you do a reverse offering? Explain it to me. And we're like, okay, so we looked at how much money we raised, whatever, people that was donated to Tribe Church through Tribe Church last year. We took that number, we divided it by 52, and then we got in our car and we drove to the bank, got the cash, and we stuck it in envelopes. And then we gave it to people. They're like, how? I'm like, that is how. That's what it was. It's not more complicated than that. Why is this so hard? Why don't we give more? Why do we have to be reminded to give? I told you I read a lot of studies this week. One of them I learned that the average American, single American, not family, the average American throws away 80 pounds of clothes every year. For a family of 4, that's 320 pounds. What on earth is happening? There are so many things to unpack with that. Why are we throwing away so many clothes? I'm sure some of that was ruined. I get it. I had a little boy who was like 7 years old. Every week we went to church, he came home with a hole in his knee. I understand. Some of it was ruined. And some of that was probably underwear. And okay, no one wants your underwear. That you can throw away. I get it. That's fine. But underwear and a couple of ruined pairs of pants a year is not going to account to 80 pounds a person. Are we so removed from community that we don't have people around us to give our gently used clothes? And if you want to get back to the root of the problem, like, why are we buying so many clothes in the first place? Are we too proud to wear clothes that someone else has worn that they don't need anymore for whatever reason? Do we really need all of the clothing that we own? And I get it. We are in Indiana. We live in a 4 seasons culture. I understand. Like, do not do that thing. As a Hoosier, as a person who lives in Indiana, do not do that thing where they're like, if you haven't worn it in 6 months, get rid of it, because you'll throw away your snow boots every July, and then you'll be in trouble in December. Don't do that, okay? That's not a good idea. But do we really need a brand new wardrobe every season? If you're a baby, yes. We had a new Tribe baby this week. You want to talk about give life? Chase and Jessica Wagner had a baby this week. That is so cool. Can we not be more generous with our money if we weren't spending so much money on clothes? Can we not pass on clothing that we don't need anymore to people around us or to a homeless shelter or something instead of just putting it in a landfill? And guys, that's just one issue. As a human person alive in the year 2022, you know there are about 1 billion other issues where we are being wasteful. Why is it so hard to give? Why don't we give more? Why do we have to be reminded to give? I think it comes down to 2 things. One is that money makes us feel and act more independently, and the other is that we have been fed a lie of scarcity. Kathleen Vohs is an American behavioral economist, probably. That means that she gets to study the effect that money has on us, on our brains, on our behavior, all of those things. And so she did this experiment a couple of years ago where she brought in some participants. And she told them two things. One, you're going to take a survey, and when the survey is over, you and another participant who's taking the survey in another room are going to be put in a room. We're going to ask you guys some questions together. Now, what the person didn't know was that the participant from the other room was actually an actor, okay? It's important to know that for the story. So they sit down in a room, they're taking the survey on a computer, and about 6 minutes into the survey, their screen would do one of three things. It would either go blank, or it would go to that old screensaver with the fish swimming across it, or it would go to a screensaver where there was money swimming across it. One of those three things would happen for about 30 seconds, and then the survey would pop back on, they'd finish the survey, they'd go into the room, and someone would stick their head in the room, and they would say, hey, we're running just a little bit behind, could you just set this room up for us? We just need a couple chairs, put together, like they're over there, could you just set up a couple chairs for us? The people who were exposed to money, exposed to, not given, across gender, race, and socioeconomic status, set the chairs an average of 12 inches apart farther than the people who were exposed to fish and the people that had a blank screen. Because money makes us feel and act more independently, and we have been fed a lie of scarcity. And the researchers, when they got these results, when they looked at all of these people that they tested, they were like, this is impossible. This must have just been like a random crazy group of people who were, maybe they were all rich, we don't know. Like maybe they were all rich, and so that's why they did this. So they ran the experiment 8 more times. And the same thing happened every single time. The people who were exposed to money, regardless of their age, their race, their gender, their socioeconomic status, how much money they had, how much money their families had, when they were just exposed to the idea of money, set those chairs farther apart. That is fascinating to me. And we see through this experiment that money makes us see and act differently. Having money, or even just the idea of money, gives us an air of, I've got this. I did this. It was me. I don't need no help from nobody. Okay? I don't need any help. Because I am in control of all of the things. And my prayer for us at Tribe is that we would not have that attitude, that we would stay hungry and we would stay humble. Hungry and humble. We're going to talk more about that in a minute. Hungry and humble. When we see money, when we think about money, it causes us to act more independently. And we might not hoard a bunch of money. You guys might not all have bank accounts with hundreds of thousands of dollars in them. But I bet we hoard a lot of stuff. I know I personally have 3 to 5 piles in my garage of things that our family no longer needs and has not needed for a hot minute that I have yet to pass on to the other people in my life. They've just been sitting in my garage basically all winter. Why? Why am I doing this to myself? Why am I doing this to my garage? Why am I doing this to the people that I love who could probably use some of these things? Nora loves wearing Bailey's clothes. Why am I not giving clothes to Nora? This is terrible. Probably because we've been fed a lie of scarcity. Scarcity is the theoretical gap between the limited resources that we have and the limitless wants of the American consumer. And if you don't think that the American consumer has limitless wants, I would challenge you to Google the 50 most ridiculous things that you can buy on Amazon. But please don't do it right now because it's fascinating and you're going to get caught in a rabbit hole and you're going to miss the rest of this. And I worked really hard on it, so I want you to listen. We've been told that there is not enough, so we need more. And we get caught up in this lie, and before we know it, we have a house full of stuff that we have to manage, and it eats into our lives. And this is not a new phenomenon. Jesus told a story about a man who gave each of his 3 servants bags of gold. Back in my day, this was called the parable of the 10 talents. But in 2011, the NIV made some changes to the phrasing, to a couple of different things in the Bible to reflect a more accurate understanding of the original text. And so now it's called the parable of the bags of gold. And whether you call it a talent or a bag of gold, it's referring to an amount of money that was equal to about what a servant can earn in 15 to 20 years. And so if we figure that a servant would be earning minimum wage, does that seem reasonable? Can we say that? Okay. So if they're earning minimum wage and they're working 40 hours a week for 50 weeks a year, because like a week's vacation and then like, a handful of holidays, a talent or a bag of gold would have been worth about $217,500 in 15 years. It says 15 to 20, like it's kind of like, we're not exactly sure. So let's just call it an even 250,000, okay? And I think knowing that number increases my level of understanding with this story, because this is not a small amount of money. For most of us in this room, that amount of money, cash in hand, would be a game changer. And the man in the story is entrusting this money to these servants that he has. And he's going to go on a long journey. He's entrusting it to their care while he's on a long journey. And to one, he gives 5 bags of gold, to another 2, and to another 1. I love this. Each according to his ability. And then he goes on his journey. And before we go any further, I want to bring your attention to 2 phrases here. The phrases entrusted and according to his ability. He entrusted this money to these servants, and this is a lot of money. This is $250,000, $500,000, and $1.25 million. When we entrust something to someone, we are giving it to them, knowing that it's going to be taken care of. We are giving it to their care and protection, and we are committing it to them with confidence. To entrust someone with money is a little bit different than just placing it in a bank to make sure that it's safe. When you entrust someone, especially this much money, it means that you're probably expecting them to do with the money what rich people do, which is turn money into more money. And the other phrase I want to bring your attention to is according to his ability. The rich man did not take his 8 bags of gold and divide it equally among his servants. And again, these are not small amounts of money. And when I thought of these bags of gold as talents as a kid, I almost assumed that they were like literal talents, like abilities, like something that you're good at. And that it was this was sort of represented by that first guy, okay? Because he only has 1 talent. The other guy has 2 talents, the other guy has 5 talents. So he can do like 5 things, okay? And I always felt sorry for the guy with only 1 talent, because that poor guy, like he can't do anything. He just has this like one little thing that he's good at, and the others have so many more. But now when I think about it as bags of gold, and I'm able to put an actual dollar amount, $250,000 per bag of gold, I see that only having 1 talent here is still an incredible skill. To be entrusted to handle $250,000 all at once, cash in hand, is significant, okay? It sounds like so much more than like 1 talent. And I think we do this to ourselves. We take the amount of money that we make, the size of our house, the age and type of the car that we drive, the healthiness of our savings and retirement and vacation funds, and we label ourselves 1 talent people. And then we do exactly what the servant who was only given 1 bag of gold does. Let's jump into our story. So after a long time, we don't know how long, but the man comes back. And he starts with the servant with the 5 bags of gold, about $1.25 million in our money today. It says the man who had received 5 bags of gold brought the other 5 that he had earned. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 5 bags of gold. See, I have gained 5 more. He did it. He did that thing that rich people do when they turn money into more money. The man had judged the servant's abilities well, and they were both happy with the outcome. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with many things, or with few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share in your master's happiness. And he moves on to the man who he only gave 2 bags of gold. And he said, that guy comes up, he says, you entrusted me with 2 bags of gold. See, I have gained 2 more. This guy doubled the man's money as well. And even though, hear this guys, even though in our money today, he earned $750,000 less than the first man who was given 5 bags of gold, even though He earned so much less. He has so much less than the first guy. Listen to the master's response. His master replied, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share in your master's happiness." The same response. The same response. And the last guy, the one-talent loser guy, who doesn't have as much as the others. He's given half as much as the second man. He's given 20% of what the first man was given. And again, I think sometimes we tell ourselves that we're this last servant. We have half as much as some people around us. We have only 20% as much as our friends or our neighbors do. And we can't be rich if that's our story. And we can't be generous if we're not rich, right? Pastor Matt told us last week that if you earn more than $33,000 per household, that's not per person, that's per household, you are in the top 1% of earners in the entire world. Again, we've been fed a lie of scarcity and independence as American consumers. And so we tell ourselves that we're broke, and then we treat ourselves like we're broke, and we give like we're broke. And just like the last man in our story, this is what happens. It says, "Then the man who had received 1 bag of gold came. 'Master,' he said, 'I knew that you are a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown, gathering where you have not scattered seed, and I was afraid. I went out and I hid your gold in the ground. See, here is what belongs to you.' He hid it because he was afraid." Look at how afraid he was. He knew that this man could turn money into more money. He knew that he harvested where he hadn't sown, and he gathered where he hadn't scattered seed. And so he was afraid and did nothing. And I hope that hits some of us right in the chest today. He was afraid, so he did nothing. Listen to me. God can't do anything when you do nothing. God can do a lot with a little. In August of 2017, we started with 8 people and $237 that we had earned at a garage sale. And this morning, we gave Chick-fil-A to 130 people on a Sunday. Impossible things are happening at Tribe Church. Okay? God can do a lot with a little. God can do the impossible with a little. But he can't do anything when you do nothing. His master replied, "You wicked, lazy servant. So you knew that I harvest where I hadn't sown and that I gather where I haven't scattered seed. Well, then you should have put my money on deposit with the bankers, so that when I returned, at least I would have received it back with interest." This man knew that everything that's healthy grows, even if it's just a little bit, even if it's just bank interest. And these words feel so hard, wicked and lazy. That is what fear does to us. It makes us wicked and lazy. It gets us so focused on surviving from one day to the next that we forget how to live. We forget how to live. We forget how to take a risk. Pastor Matt said last week that hope is a feeling of trust, and we lose it. We lose it when we're in this situation. God can do anything when we give a little, when we do something. God can do the impossible, but he can't do anything when we do nothing. And the story ends like this. So take the bag of gold from him and give it to the one that has 10 bags. For whoever has will be given more, and they will have abundance. And whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them. And throw out that that worthless servant into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. I really wish that it read, for whoever has been given more and does something with it to the best of his or her ability, they will be given abundance. But it doesn't. That verse taken out of context is terrifying, which is why we need to keep it in the confines of the story, because here it makes perfect sense. When we use the time, talents, and money that God has given it to the best of our abilities, we will be entrusted with more. What I really want to draw your attention to here is how Jesus refers to the first servant in the last part of the story. All along, this has been the guy who's known as the one who was given 5 bags of gold. And now, here at the end, he's known as the one who's got 10. When we trust God with our lives, when we use the gifts that he has given us to bless others, God rewrites our stories, and he gives us a new identity. Both the Sermon on the Mount and the parable of the bags of gold, in both of these stories, Jesus is challenging his first century listeners. He's saying, people of God, rise up and shine God's love, because we are the light of the world. He's saying, you are called to live differently than the rest of the world. You have been given gifts according to your abilities, and you need to use them to be the light of the world, because whatever you do with them, you're going to either be given more or less. If you use them well, you'll be given more. If you don't, you're going to be given less. And this is not prosperity gospel. I am not saying that if you give to Give Life or to our 119 fund or just here on a Sunday that your bank account is going to grow. What I am saying that is if you give more, I'm not saying that if you give more, you'll have more. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm absolutely saying is that the more you give, the more you will be satisfied with less. You might give away a bunch of clothes that you don't wear anymore to a women's shelter or a family shelter or a men's shelter, and then realize suddenly that your closet is so much easier to organize, that your laundry takes less time. You're not overloaded with a bunch of clothes, so you don't end up just like staring at your closet, not knowing what to wear every morning. You might let go of some unnecessary stuff that you don't need. And this is fabulous. There's this group in called Buy Nothing on Plainfield. It's called Buy Nothing Plainfield. It's on Facebook. It's a Facebook group. You can ask to join it. You put a picture of the stuff you don't want, and someone will come to your house and take it from you, and they'll use it. I furnished our entire office in the back with objects from Buy Nothing. Okay? It's magical. It's amazing. Maybe you let go of some furniture you don't need, and you find that cleaning your house, it takes less time. Study after study has shown that clutter, excess stuff, causes stress, anxiety, and sometimes even depression. I'm not saying get rid of everything that you own and you're not going to need your anxiety meds anymore. I'm saying that an overcrowded house tells our brain that our work is never done, that we can't relax in our own homes, that hoarding and collecting and caring for this stuff is more important than living out our purpose, which is to connect the people around us to the good news of God's love. When we planted this church, when we moved to Plainfield, our family gave away a bunch of stuff. Some of it because we didn't need it anymore. Some of it we did, and we gave it away anyway. And it was good, expensive stuff that we probably could have used. But I didn't want to have to mess with it anymore. I didn't have time in my life to deal with that. I didn't want to look at it and feel guilty for not using it. So we let it go. And I was actually just looking around my house this week and thinking, it's time to let go of some stuff again. It's time to find some things that we can live without, to pass them on to people who will use them. Because when you stop filling up your home with stuff, and you see how much more satisfying it is to have less, you have more room in your life for the things that really matter. You have more time in your life to be a light bearer. You have more time to live out our word of the year, find. Because found people find people. In both the stories we looked at today, Jesus is challenging us to use our time, talents, and money to be the light of the world, to shine light in the darkest places, to live radically and give generously. And we've asked you for $39.95 each today. I know not everyone can do that, but I pray that you will give something. Hear my heart on this. We don't want something from you. We want something for you. Always, always, always. We want to see your life changed because of radical generosity. When you think and live this way, I think you're going to figure out that your future is so bright, you're going to have to wear shades. Let's pray. Let these words penetrate our hearts this morning. Help us to let go of the things that we don't need and teach us to be satisfied with less. Guide us to people who will be blessed by the things that we don't need in our lives, and fill our hearts with we release into the world. In your name we pray. Amen.
There we go. Thank you so much, Pastor Carrie. Let's try these shades. Maybe they'll be a little bit better. So, If you're ready to take the next step with Tribe, again, text NEXT if you've made the decision, if you want to join Tribe, if you want to start serving, or if you want to be baptized. The offering, again, as always, we don't want something from you. We would like something for you. We do not pass buckets here at Tribe. There are 3 ways to give. You can give online, or you can text Tribe to 77977, or we have a giving station here to the left. If it is your first time here, feel no obligation to give. I'd like to pray for our offering. Thank you, Lord, for having us all here today and uniting us with the one thing we'd like to see more of in this world, which is love. The love that fills this church with all of us, and we know that you have our best interests at heart, to follow you when we are not only in this building, but when we are living the life you have created for us every day. Please guide us as a new week starts until we get the opportunity to worship with our friends and family here next Sunday. Please bless every gift that is given through Tribe, whether it be serving through Tribe or a monetary donation. But please remember, as always, we don't want something from you. We want something for you. If you have made a decision after listening to our fabulous team here at Tribe and you'd like to get involved, there are many options to do so by texting NEXT to the number here you see on the screen. Thanks so much for being part of Give Life series this year. And as you head out into your next week, please remember that, as always, love is the best thing that we do.